Shalom, shalom. Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shah Barakatah to my brothers. Yahweh Shemalatah Bahashim, Yahweh Shah to my sisters. This is the Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge coming out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under command of General Yohana. And what we do is we teach the Black, Hispanic, and Native people that they are God's true and only chosen people. And with that comes a set of responsibilities. Now, those responsibilities is simply to love one another, as the law has dictated us to love one another. And it's a beautiful thing. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to be going over a little bit of history today to show some brotherhood throughout our history. You know what I'm saying? Some things that has happened throughout Israelite history. You know what I'm saying? And the beauty of it. You know what I'm saying? While so many of us was celebrating eating turkey, celebrating the slaughter of our native people, you know what I'm saying? Celebrating the victories of our enemies over our own people. Well, Hanukkah, which is a beautiful day, is quite the opposite. Hanukkah is the day that celebrates the Maccabee dynasty, you know what I'm saying? The Maccabees, aka the Hasmonean dynasty, and it's conquering its enemies of the Grecians. You know what I'm saying? They conquered the Grecians, and a lot of them died. A lot of our enemies were killed. A lot of our enemies were slaughtered because they wanted to put pork on our altar and slay it. You know what I'm saying? So while y'all celebrate the death of our people, well, coming soon, I think it's this Saturday. Hold on, let me get it. Let me get the right day real quick. Yeah, this Saturday. Again, Saturday at sundown for 8 days. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna be celebrating Hanukkah, which is the dedication, feast of dedication. After we defeated the Greeks, we rededicated the temple that they slaughtered that swine on back to the Lord. We had to slaughter many of them, even though the numbers was against us. You know what I'm saying? So we could rededicate the temple to the Most High. Now that's a proper holiday. That is a proper feast. That is a proper celebration when we are celebrating the slaughter of our enemies. There is another one that's coming up not too far from now too, and another one where we slaughtered our enemies. You know what holiday that is? Let me tell you what holiday that is. That is what you call the Passover. In the Passover, we slaughtered our enemies. You know what I'm saying? The Most High slaughtered our enemies for our best interests, so we could have our own. And he did it, and he helped us do it with the Hasmonean dynasty as well, which is Hanukkah, when we slaughtered the Greeks. So the Africans got slaughtered and the Grecians got slaughtered, all for our best interests. You know what I'm saying? But bear with me 1 second as I share this class to the numerous places I gotta share it, because that's what I do. That's literally my job. Wasn't for me, I wouldn't even be on social media. But the Lord gave me a job, and I'm going to do it. You know what I'm saying? The Lord gave me a job, and I'm going to do it ASAP. Share it to a few groups. I ain't going to get too much into it. We're going to go into a bit of history. We're going to go into some scriptures. We're going to stay in one book. We might hop in and out of it every now and then, but we're going to mostly be in one book. We're going to talk to the people. You know what I'm saying? Get everything popping. But first, let's get over some history. But if you have any questions, type them on in. You know what I'm saying? I'll give y'all a second to think of your questions. But if you have any questions, just type them on in. You know what I'm saying? That's what we do over here. We answer questions. This is not a Christian church. We answer questions here. You know what I'm saying? So if you got any questions, type them on in. All right, no questions. I guess everybody know the Bible, huh? Everybody know the scripture. Well, let's get with it. All right. Now we're gonna talk like when we read the Bible. You know what I'm saying? It's not exactly in chronological order, but a lot of eras of time is discussed within the scriptures. You know what I'm saying? The New Testament is mostly it is Roman captivity. You know what I'm saying? Then you have Persian captivity, Babylonian, Egyptian. A lot of great empires are spoken of throughout the scriptures. But due to our oppressor, there is a time where the scriptures seem to miss a big major era in time, and that is during the Greek era. You know why the Greek era is missing from the Bible? Let me tell you why the Greek era is missing from the Bible. Because we have our oppressor that seems to want to take books out of the Bible, think he's hiding information from us. He don't destroy the information. He just takes it out and puts it somewhere else, so we thinking that we can't get to it. But the Most High preserved that information, and it's called the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha is a part of the original translation of the King James Version, and the Roman Catholic Church took it out, and it is mainly and mostly the Persian and Greek era that is in the Apocrypha. Now, the word Apocrypha literally means hidden books, but the Roman Catholic Church didn't want us to see these things because if you read these books, you will see a lot of, how may I put it, rebellion. There's a lot of rebellion in the Apocrypha. There's a lot of good information, good lessons, a lot of things that prove that we are the Israelites, all in the Apocrypha alone. So they took those books out, say it's not canon, it's not real. You know what I'm saying? But it's a big missing piece, and there's a whole bunch of evidence to prove that it is, because a lot of it connects to the other parts of the Bible, the New Testament and the Old. But it's not just that. We're going to connect it to history too. You know what I'm saying? We're going to connect it right to history. We're going to go through some history right now. We're going to go to the Encyclopedia Britannica. We're going to look at some history, right? We're going to look at, this isn't the one I wanted, but it's going to have to do. Artabolus II, last of the Hasmonean kings. Now, the Hasmonean, aka the Maccabean, kings of Judea. That was an era of time where we got to rule over ourselves. On death of 67 BC of his mother, Salome, Alexandra, he succeeded to the throne, defeating his brother, the rival John Hyrcanus. And when Hyrcanus sought help from that, basically, that's Magna. That's not what I wanted. Let me back it up a bit. Bang. Hold on. I wanted Hasmonean Dynasty. I don't know why I got to one. Just let me press this. Then. Now that'll sum it up. There we go. Hasmonean, a Judean dynasty, a time when Judah and the Judah were ruling. Hasmonean dynasty, also spelled Hasmonean dynasty of ancient Judea, descendants of Maccabee family. The name derived according to Flavius Josephus. Rather, Josephus is a historian that chronicled a lot of these times. You know what I'm saying? So this is actual history. Now, a lot of people like to say the Bible ain't history. The Bible has nothing to do with history. The Bible's a bunch of myths and stories. But that's why they took the Apocrypha out. So they could have that confusion of having you believing that it's nothing practical about the Bible. It's nothing but myths and all that. But they took out history that's in the Bible. We're going to get into some of that history too. You know what I'm saying? From the name of their ancestor Hasmoneus or Hasmon or Asamoneum in 143 to 142 BCE, Simon Maccabeus, son of Mattathias and brother of Judas Maccabeus, succeeded his brother Jonathan as leader of the Maccabean revolt against the Seleucid dynasty. The Seleucid dynasty. What is the Seleucid dynasty? Let's go back and see. Let's see what the Seleucid dynasty is. Seleucid dynasty. This is also the Encyclopedia Britannica. An ancient empire that at its greatest extent stretched from Thrace in Europe to the border of India. That's a large, large area. It darn near most of the planet that was actually known at that time. The Great Macedonian Empire, oh, my fault, I skipped. It was carved out of the remains of Alexander the Greek. I know it says great there, but he's nothing great to us. So we say Alexander the Greek. Macedonian Empire by its founder, Seleucus I Nicator. Seleucus, one of Alexander's leading generals, became satrap governor of Babylonia in 321. 2 years after the death of Alexander, in the prolonged power struggle between the former generals of Alexander. Now, let me give you a little history on that. Alexander the Great Greek, he died. He was the first of Greece. He died. He had four generals with him. When he died, those four generals fought for power. You know what I'm saying? And when those four generals fought for power, that's when basically the fall of Greece happened. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. In the prolonged power struggle between the former generals of Alexander for control of the disintegrating empire, Seleucus sided with Ptolemy the first of Egypt against Antagonist the first, Alexander's successor on the Macedonian throne, who had forced Seleucus out of Babylonia. So basically, we know what the Seleucid dynasty is. It's a dynasty that was ran by one of Alexander the Great's generals. You know what I'm saying? Alexander the Greek had a general named Seleucus, and he is the founder of the Seleucid Empire. Now let's continue with the Hasmonean dynasty. He soon became independent of the Seleucids as high priest. Now, the Seleucids had us under their, control and captivity, and they are the ones that, violated our altar. They are the ones that violated our temple. And we became independent from the Seleucids as high priest, ruler, and ethnarch, which is another way of saying ruler. It's let's get into the definition. Let's get into the definition before ethnarch, the governor of a province of people, as of the Byzantine Empire. That's the era where that word was common, but it's like a governor of a province. You know what I'm saying? Let's get back to it. He soon became independent of the Seleucids as high priest, ruler, and ethnarch of Judea. The offices were hereditary, and Simon thus became the first of the Hasmonean dynasty. He was succeeded by his son, John, Hyrcanus the first, and Aristobulus the first, Alexander Jannaeus, and his widow Salome Alexandria, Aristobulus the second, and John Hyrcanus the second, and the last Hasmonean antagonist, and was disposed and executed by the Romans under Mark Antony. So Mark Antony was the one that ended the Maccabean dynasty. Like we gotta come to the conclusion that these people are not our brothers. You know what I'm saying? When one of their people end up losing rule, the other one's gonna try to take rule of us. It's been like that forever. You know what I'm saying? But that's what it was. That's what the Hasmonean dynasty is wrapped up in right there. But the Apocrypha is going to give more details. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to go to First Maccabees 1:1. Matter of fact, let me get it on my phone because the light is better. Get it on my phone because the light is better. All right. First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian. Now, this is Alexander the Greek. You know what I'm saying? He was the son of Philip, the Macedonian. That's how he came on the throne of Macedonia. You know what I'm saying? The who came out of the land of Shittim, has smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes. He killed the Persians and the Medes. You know what I'm saying? So this is showing you right here. This is connecting it to the history right here. You know what I'm saying? This is showing you right here the history of it. Let's continue. And that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth. So he was straight up killing them, straight up slaughtering them, straight up laying them down. You know what I'm saying? And went through the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted. So he became a big name. He became a big name out in these streets. Everybody knew who Alexander the Greek was. You know what I'm saying? They knew who he was, right? And he gathered a mighty strong host. So he's talking about those four generals. You know what I'm saying? He had a big army. He had a big army with him. This is all like this is all tied into the history I just read to you. You know what I'm saying? He had four strong generals with him. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. And if you have any questions, you could type them on in at any time. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. He gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. He humbled many kings. They had to bow down. Now, this is Alexander the Greek. This is our enemy. You know what I'm saying? And after these things, he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. See, he split up the kingdom. Just like in the history we just read in Encyclopedia Britannica. Alexander the Greek had 4 generals and he split up his kingdom in 4 places. Each general had his province. Each general had his section. You know what I'm saying? So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And his servants bear rule, every one in his place. Like they all ruled together in the Greek Empire in their own place, in their own steed. You know what I'm saying? One group, we're in Boston. It's like this: one ruling Mattapan, another one ruling, you know what I'm saying, Brockton, another one ruling Milton, another one ruling Dorchester, another one ruling Roxbury. It's the same thing. These are different provinces that were ruled under his generals. All right. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. Like this is what they do. This is what they do. When he died, they all put crowns on their heads and basically said they the rulers. Instead of working together, they all wanted to be the supreme ruler. You know what I'm saying? They all wanted to rule. So they put crowns upon their own heads. Nobody else deemed them king. Nobody else deemed them the supreme ruler of it all. Nobody. They just put the crown on their head. You know what I'm saying? Let's continue. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. So as time went on, their sons did the same thing. Like the king of Roxbury's son put a crown. That crown passed down to him. King of Dorchester's son passed down on to him. Now they all still thinking they the supreme ruler of Greece. But as they're thinking this, many wars are breaking out, many evils are being done. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's doing their own thing. There's no order. You know what I'm saying? So let's continue. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been an hostage at Rome. And now remember, Rome was one of those places too. Rome ended up coming up against Greece. So the wars amongst them are still fiddling. And this Antiochus came out of Rome. He was a prisoner there. But let's continue. And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men. Now, in those days, there was wicked men out of Israel. Why were they wicked? What would make these men of Israel wicked? Now, remember, there's a bunch of nations out there. Well, not a bunch of nations. There's a bunch of division amongst a certain nation to rule their kingdom. Now, us Israel being bystanders, what would make a man evil? Let me tell you, when he no longer wants to become a bystander, when he decides to pick a side, like you see this war in Russia and Ukraine, us as black Hispanics and natives, we don't have no dog in that race. Just like the Israelites back in these days, they had no dogs over that race with the 4 generals of Alexander the Greek. We had no dog in that race. But sooner or later, we end up picking a side. And when we pick that side, we end up putting ourselves under servitude of that side. You know what I'm saying? When you rooting for somebody to win, guess what? You rooting for them to win for their support. And you're also giving them your support. You have some type of interest, which we should not have with any of our enemies. We shouldn't have any interest with them at all. We might have business, but that should be on personal levels, not national. Like us as individuals could do business with an individual of another nation. But as a nation, we have no interest with them. We do not affiliate with no other nation. That is against the laws of God. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. Who persuaded many, like these evil, wicked men persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. See, that's what they did. They picked a side with the heathens that are round about us. They seen that there was heathens on every angle of Israel. Like there's no way they could go without bumping into heathens. So they said, let's make a covenant with them. Let's make an agreement. Let's pick a side. We got a common interest or whatever. Let's see if we could work out a deal. When it's in the scriptures, you should not make covenants with the heathens. Should I search that up? Let's search that up. Hold on. I'm trying to find it. I cannot find it right now. I cannot find it right now. I'll look it up some other time. But it literally says in the scriptures that we should not be making a covenant with the heathen. Should not have no agreement with them. You know what I'm saying? I believe it's in Deuteronomy. I'm gonna give it one more try. I really can't find it. But let's continue then. You know what I'm saying? First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. Like this is one of our problems as a people too. We think that we cannot make it without them. We think that we need them. We think life is going to be harder without them, and you may be right. But for how long? How long will it be bad? How long will it be a struggle? You see, when we was kicked out of slavery, what about 50 years we had cities? About 50 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, about 50 years later, we had universities. How long do you expect it to happen? How long you expect the struggle to happen? And is it worth your children ruling? That's what you must ask yourself. But these wicked men here, they didn't believe so. So they went and they made agreements with our enemy. They went and made agreements with those who are against us. And that's our problem. That's our problem. We always want to make a covenant with them. We always want to beg and plead for their acceptance and love. We're still doing it today. We were doing it back then. You know what I'm saying? But then there has to be a few that will stand up and be like, screw that. Screw that. But let's continue. I think I could drop this part. No, let's continue. Let's continue. Let's continue. All right. Verse 12. So this device pleased them well, so they thought it was a good idea to do this. The certain of the people were so forward with herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after their ordinance of the heathen. So they went to the king, and the king said, yeah, you can come celebrate our holidays. Yeah, you can come eat the swine and the lobster and the shrimp and the rat. Yeah, they would eat rat back then. Rat was actually a delicacy to them back then. Rat was food back then. And you could come do all that. You could come partake in our orgies and our weird sexual practices, and you could do all that. You can come do exactly what we do. And that's what he did. That's exactly what they did. Exactly what they did. You know what I'm saying? That's exactly what we're doing today. That's why we out there celebrating Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. Because these wicked men weren't willing to fight for their own custom. They wanted to make they wanted to integrate. These men wanted to assimilate with the Greek culture. They wanted to become Hellenized. That's what they wanted to do. And that's what they did. So let's continue. 14. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen. What is a place of exercise? Remember, you're thinking about Greece. What is Greece known for? What is a big event that happens every 4 years? Greece is known for Olympic Games. The Grecians started the Olympic Games and it continued to, even the Romans continued to practice. And it is built in a so called gymnasium. And the real big gymnasiums are called coliseums. So that big Roman Colosseum or Greek Colosseum, whatever it is, I don't know. That is from them times. Our ancestors were fighting lions and each other in those cages back then, in those big stadiums of sport and entertainment. Which is why I don't put too much credit into sports now, because the same thing is going on today. They put us in the forefront of these sports for their entertainment, and it's a big distraction too. These sports was a big distraction then; it's a big distraction now. So these wicked men got the license to do the same thing that these heathens did, that these Greeks did. And the first thing they did was built the gymnasium. You know why? Because it's a great distraction. Distract them with sports. Give them a champion to root for. Give them an antagonist to boo. And that's what they did. You know what I'm saying? So there's a bunch of us that didn't have the brotherhood and love for his own people to not do such things. But let's continue. And made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to do mischief. Y'all hear that? Let me read that again. And made themselves uncircumcised. Remember, our custom is circumcision, not the way these fake Jews in Brooklyn do it, because sucking on a baby's penis is actually against the law. Period. Putting blood in your mouth is actually against the law. You know what I'm saying? You can't be consuming blood. You know what I'm saying? That's just sick. So they sucking on a baby penis and giving the baby herpes and call it a circumcision. No, that's not a circumcision. What they call it, a brisk or something like that. That's not our culture. That's their weird culture that comes from the Talmud. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. And they forsook the holy covenant, which is the law, statutes, and commandment for us to follow. They didn't even care that they were God's chosen people. They just wanted to be just like the heathens. You know what I'm saying? And joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to do mischief. They were this sold is not a physical selling. This sold is more like convinced. They bought in to do mischief. They bought in to break the laws of God. They bought in to eat the crab, pork, shrimp, and lobster. They bought in to join these orgies and whatever else the Greeks did. They bought into their holidays. They bought in just like we're buying into the American dream. They bought into the Grecian dream. Same thing. They were sold to do mischief. You know what a brother would do right now to achieve the American dream? A brother would commit all types of crime against his own people. Sell drugs, rob, steal, just to have a piece of that American pie. It's no different as it was back then. But let's continue. Now, when the kingdom was established before Antioch, he thought to reign over Egypt that he might have the dominion of two realms. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude with chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. Like this is more history that we were just reading on. We were just reading on this history in the encyclopedia. A lot of people like to say the Bible's not real. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. You know what I'm saying? I guess we could pretty much stop here. You know what I'm saying? Let's get to another important part of this. You know what I'm saying? Get to another important part of this. Get to Let's go straight to the part where they straight up offended us. You know what I'm saying? Let's go to actually it's in the same chapter. We just dropped down a few more verses. Let's go to verse 42. Let's go to verse 42, all right? And everyone should leave. Hold on, let's no, let's start let's start at actually let's start wow. I am skipping a lot here. Let's start at 31. Let's start at no, let's start at 29. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah. All right, so after a time, you know what I'm saying, Antioch, he was ruling viciously. You know what I'm saying? Actually, let's go up high. No, let's start. I might as well just continue from where I left. All right, let's start off with 19 because I don't want y'all really miss any of this because this is very important. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. So Antioch won. And after that, Antioch had smitten Egypt. He returned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude. Now, we made a covenant with them. We was all buddy with them. But this is what they do. This is what our enemy do, and this is what they always done. They want complete control. They want complete rulership. They used us to be Egypt because we are a land that's right outside of Egypt. How did they get their navy into our waters, which was the Red Sea? How did they get their navy into our waters? Simple. It's very simple because we made a covenant with them. And what do? They betray us with that covenant. They betray us, and now they are coming up against us, which is something they always done. You know what I'm saying? They would use and abuse us. You know what I'm saying? How many black, Hispanic, and Native brothers fought in a civil war with the hopes and dreams of freedom? Fought their fight for them with the hopes and dreams of freedom? You know how many times they used us against each other with broken promises? How many treaties have they broken with the Native American brothers and sisters alone? They have broken many treaties with the Native American. Like, these people are not to be trusted. Period. But let's continue. And entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar. Now, what's the sanctuary? The sanctuary is the temple. So they defeated us, and they seen how deliciously they defeated the Egyptians, and they seen how deliciously we were living, even though we helped them. And now they wanted to take from us. There's no, how may I say, end to their hunger, to their greed. So they go into our sanctuaries, our safe places, and strip all our preciousness, all our artifacts, all our gold and jewelry and everything out of us, right? And let's continue. They even and took away the golden altar and the candlesticks of light and all the vessels thereof. Candlesticks of light, that's that menorah, that's that seven candlesticks, not nine like these evil dudes want to do. You know what I'm saying? The menorah been established back in Genesis, and it's supposed to have seven branches, not nine. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. And the table of the showbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the vial, and the veil, and the crown, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. They stripped everything. And he took also the silver and gold and precious vessels. Also, he took the hidden treasures which he found. Like, they took everything. They straight up and down took everything. You know what I'm saying? There was no quenching of that thirst there. Let's continue. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly. Like, they didn't just come in and took it; they slaughtered a lot of us because a lot of us was not going to let them take it. A lot of us fought. A lot of us trying to hold on to them. A lot of us was hiding things and got caught, and they end up killing us, slaughtering us, a massacre. And guess what happened after that massacre? And spoken very proudly. They went back to their land and spoken very proudly. Let me tell you something. The Pequots were slaughtered in a massacre. A lot of them burnt alive. And guess what the governor of Massachusetts did after that slaughter? Went back to Massachusetts, spoken so proudly, and said, "This is a day of thanksgiving." Nothing's changing, man. Nothing's changing. History does repeat itself. Maybe another Maccabean revolt's coming. Who knows? I ain't the one to speak on. But I ain't gonna hold you. It needs to be happening. Matter of fact, I'll be bold enough to say it. The Maccabean revolt is the ISUPK. We are that revolt. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. Therefore, there was a great mourning in Israel, in every place where they were. Of course, they were mourning because they knew it was a mistake to bond unto this enemy, right? So that the princes and elders mourned, The virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women would change. Every bridegroom took up lamentations, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. Like there was nothing that made anybody happy. Nothing good was happening. No matter what your position was, man, woman, child, you were saddened by seeing what happened, not just to your people, but to the temple. You know what I'm saying? You were saddened. You know, there was no individualism back then. What happened to one of us happened to us all. Individualism is a poison that I blame the Christian church for teaching. Christian church teach individualism, not us here. But let's continue. The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all of the house of Judah was covered with confusion. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude, and spake peaceable words unto them, but was all deceit, because that's what they do. They always speak with some nice, sweet, pretty words. They're always trying to get you with that. They're always trying to get you with that. But let's get into it. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore. So when they paid their tribute, when they gave credence to him, when they even bowed a knee down to these people, people still slaughtered them. They fell upon them. They took ground on them. That's what they did because that's who they are. They're not a trustworthy people. That's why they can't speak in peaceable words. You know what we call them? When I was growing up, people who like to speak, nice words and then they stab you in the back, we called them snakes. It's all going three circle now, ain't it? Great snake from the beginning. That spirit's in him. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. He fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive and possessed cattle. So they snatched up our women, took our children. Remember, these are Greeks, so yes, pedophilia is in their nature. They took those children for a reason. You know what I'm saying? And possessed the cattle. Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves within. So now we got these evil, wicked people living amongst us, because that's what they do. What they call them now, embassies. This is disgusting, man. And verse 35, they stored it also with armor and victuals. And when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there. And so they became a sore snare. So just to look upon it was just depressing. For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary and an evil adversary to Israel. So they built up this wall, this towers. They built this basically a fort just so they could raid the city at will. Just so they could come in and raid the city at will. This is what the Greeks did. Now I'm building up to show you how disgusting of a people these were, to show you why a Maccabean revolt was needed in the first place. You know what I'm saying? So you got to read this first chapter of the first book. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. All right. For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. Whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. Similar to today. None of us is in Jerusalem right now. None of us is in Judea. None of us is in Israel. None but strangers in there right now. The children of Israel not even there. And our land is left ruined. That's why nothing is actually growing in there. Israel really can't grow nothing without some super scientific assistance. It's a wasteland. And it will be a wasteland till we get back there. Under our Lord's rulership, of course. But let's continue. First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 39. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. Like, listen to that. Like, I ain't gonna lie, y'all who like to say what they say, Tawab Shabbat or something like that, happy Sabbath. We should be feeling about our Sabbaths just like they were feeling like it back then. There's nothing happy about it. Nothing happy about our Sabbath, unless you're happy about the little bit of time that your oppressors give you off for. Still can't do your own thing on it. Our Sabbaths are turned into mourning. Yes, still follow it. Don't get me wrong, still follow it. But just like then, our Sabbaths are the same today. You know what I'm saying? Our Sabbaths are almost a reproach. A lot of us, it's hard. A lot of us gotta work for our masters on this day. A lot of us still gotta go to slavery on this day. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. And verse 40, as had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antioch wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. Whoa. What does that sound like? This is a melting pot. Guess who else is a melting pot? America is a melting pot. Antioch wanted everybody to be one people, just like America wants everybody to be one people. You know what I'm saying? Y'all think this integration thing, they were fighting it? Nah, they really wasn't fighting it. They just didn't want integration. They wanted assimilation. They wanted our cooperation into their game plan. And that's exactly what we gave them. We gave them exactly that. They didn't want us standing out and alone and by ourselves and being holy like we should be. You know what I'm saying? Well, let's continue. Verse 42. And everyone should leave his laws. Everybody got to leave their laws. They got to leave their culture. They got to leave their customs. Similar to today. We are forced to practice our own customs, man. We can't even call ourselves Israelites or Jews without somebody being canceled or be calling anti-Semitic or something. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody, hey, shitty soon. I wouldn't be surprised if we'd be losing our job for it. I'll lose it happily. I lose my job happily for it. Yeah, I lost quite a few already. You know what I'm saying? But we had to leave our laws, just like so many of us are leaving our laws today. A lot of us ain't following not one law in here. A lot of us are eating that crab, pork, shrimp, and lobster on Christmas. Wait till Christmas come. Everybody going to be celebrating it, which is breaking the law itself. You know what I'm saying? Practicing all types of madness. You know what I'm saying? Brothers are going to get murdered, doing all types of drugs. You know what I'm saying? We left our laws. We have no moral standards, just like they wanted us to back then. Because as long as we assimilate unto their ways and their practices, we are under their authority, just like today. Y'all really believe that any type of reparation will solve our problems? All that would do is put us further under their authority. You know what I'm saying? Everything that we seem to beg for cheaper housing, to equal work opportunity, guess what? They benefit everybody but us. Everything we beg for benefits everybody but us. Beg for integration benefits everybody but us. So let's continue. And everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yeah, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land. So they even promoting this. Who promotes the laws of this land? Who promotes the customs of this land today? Let me tell you, your Christian church. Your Christian church enforces all the laws of this land, all the customs. Your Christian church is about to have all types of Christmas trees up in there. You know what I'm saying? Your Christian church tells your woman to leave you if she's not happy. So they're promoting divorce. They're promoting your woman to turn herself into a whore. That's what the Christian church do. Christian church is going to be having all types of pork, crab, shrimp, and lobster. You heard what Jamal Bryant said not too long ago. Jamal Bryant, a famous Christian pastor, said he wants his church to grow weed. He's going to try to convince his church to grow weed. Guess what? He can't do it because his church ain't allowed to because it's illegal in his state. But he wants his church to do it because he's given up on the law. He's assimilating into the cultures of this country, and he's enforcing those cultures onto the people. So yes, these wicked men are your Christian pastors. These wicked men at the earlier part of this on verse 11, the wicked men is talking about your leaders. And who are our leaders? Our pastors, our politicians. You know what I'm saying? They are the ones that's helping us assimilate into this culture. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. Okay, here we go. Now let me continue with 44. For the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbath and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people. So look, we could not have our burnt offerings. We could not have our sacrifices. We could not have our drink offerings. We could not in the temple, and that they should profane it. Like it was law that we should profane the Sabbath. We had to profane the Sabbath and the feast days. No more celebrating of the Passover. No more Day of Atonement. You know what I'm saying? No more Feast of First Fruits. You know what I'm saying? None of that. Let's continue. And polluted the sanctuary and holy people. Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols and sacrificed swine's flesh and unclean beasts. That was a law. That's what we had to do. That they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end they might forget the law and change all their ordinances. Because we did forget the law. Even to this day, we forgot the law. But there's a few righteous men that do know the law, remember the law, and are teaching the law. And those righteous men are in the ISUPK under Commander General Yohana. Thanks to him that we're able to keep this. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. That's heavy. That's heavy. That's heavy as hell right there. If you didn't do it, you would die. It was just that simple. You know what I'm saying? But let's get to Mattathias. Let's get to understand Mattathias. Let's see, where would I want to start? Where would I want to start? Let's see. Let's drop down. Let's go to let's just start with, let's go to the next chapter. Let's get to know his lineage and everything else, all right? Because Mattathias is like the forefather of this, you know what I'm saying? And in those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Jorib from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. And he had 5 sons: Joanan, called Cadiz; Simon, called Thesai; Judas, who was called Maccabeus; and Eleazar, called Avaran; and Jonathan, whose surname was Aphus. And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, that was the all the laws that was being broken, but mainly, you know what I'm saying, with the altar, you know what I'm saying? And when he said, "Woe is me, wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people." Like, it was hurting them. Similar to today, it should hurt you when you see your brothers and sisters up at Dudley Station all strung out. That should hurt you. It should hurt you to see them on mass app strung out. You know what I'm saying? Hanging out with these heathens, you know what I'm saying? Killing themselves. That should hurt you. It should hurt you when you see um, a black, Hispanic, and Native woman on social media eating all types of crab, pork, shrimp, and lobster, twerking on the, you know, twerking on the social medias, spinning on the stripper pole. That should hurt you. It should hurt you when you see sisters cut off their breasts like Brittany Griner because she, you know, wants to be a man. That should hurt you. Seeing those rainbow flags should hurt you. It should anger you. It should sadden you. It should put a fire in your chest when you see it. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. He said, "Woe is me." Like, woe means destruction is me. Like, he is done. Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of the strangers. Like, this is hurting to see all these heathens walking around this hood. Like, when you see your hood getting gentrified and you see these Arabs and Arab stores and Chinese restaurants and African braiding shops in your hood, that should hurt you too. That should hurt your soul also. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. That's the brotherhood that Mattathias had. You know what I'm saying? Her temple is become as a man without glory. There is no glory in our temple. No glory in it. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets, her young men with the sword of the enemy. What nation have not had part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? Man, that sounds like it's like seeing your nation as a whole. Like every nation that had a piece of her, man. Every nation that had a piece of that tail. That's how he's seeing it. Like when you see a sister that is strung out and just giving up that box for drugs and a little bit of cash to get more drugs, and you just staring at it, you just get saddened. That's how he's seeing his nation right now. That's how he's seeing his nation. You know what I'm saying? Let's continue. And behold, our sanctuary. Oh, nope, I dropped the spot. I dropped. Verse 11, all her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman, she is become a bond slave. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. Man, they slaughtered swine on our joint, man. So brother had to slaughter an enemy on it. It wasn't an enemy, it was actually another brother. But still, he shouldn't have did it. He made himself an enemy. But let's continue. To what end, therefore, shall we live any longer? Then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned very sore. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city Modin to make them sacrifice. And when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on the wise, thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in the city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. So one of these, I guess you could say, messengers of the king came to Mattathias, giving him those sweet words like we're so used to, giving them props, what I'm saying, beating the snakes that they are, and, let's see where it leads. Now, therefore, come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done. Yeah, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So he's looking for Mattathias to be a sellout. You see this? He's putting the great men, the honorable man, trying to give him the opportunity to sell out first, so the rest of us could sell out with him. Ain't that what Shaq and Charles Barkley just did when it came to Kyrie Irving? You know what I'm saying? They put somebody out in the forefront to make them look good and strong. Like, look, it ain't that bad over here on this side. That's what Martin Luther King was. Martin Luther King had a chance to be Mattathias, but he chose not to. So many of our people had a chance to be Mattathias, but chose not to. When you get those strong men and you make them into our oppressor's bitch, that's what they do. They like to take our strong men and make them into their bitch. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. Okay. So thou shalt, oh yeah, hold on. So thou shalt in thy house be in the number of the king's friends, And thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards. Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fell away every one from the religion of their fathers and give consent to his commandments. Like, I don't know if y'all caught that. Mattathias was on some smooth stuff right here. He's not taking control. He's not being a ruler. He's playing the smart. Like, look, I want to read it again. Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him. Like every nation obeys the king, right? And fell away every one from the religion of their fathers and give consent to his command. Like everybody's leaving their culture and following the king's Grecian ways, following the American dream, right? He's on some slick stuff, right? Let's hear him out. Yet will I and my son and my brethren walk in the covenants of our fathers. Ah, he built it up just to let them down. As of me and my family, we're going to follow the Lord. That's what soldiers do. That's what great men do. That's what rulers do. You know what I'm saying? They don't leave their culture just to appease the masses, just to fit in with the norm. Nah, they're going to follow what their father told them to do. You know what I'm saying? Let's continue. God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion either on the right hand side or the left. Like there's nothing that you could do to shake us, no matter what you offer us, no matter what you threaten us with. We're going straight forward. We're standing our ground. That's righteous. Let's continue. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion either on the right hand or the left. Now, when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar which was at Modin, according to the king's commandments. Like had to be one coon in the crowd. There had to be one clown with a pig on his shoulder running up to the altar, ready to do the king's commandment. Now let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal. Like this is zeal. Don't confuse anger. Don't confuse wrath. Don't confuse madness with zeal. Zeal is of the Lord. Zeal is a passion for these law, statutes, and commandments in this brotherhood, in this family that we have, our people. That zeal can only be found in the ISUPK. Only in the ISUPK are we willing to lose everything for this. But he was inflamed. Mattathias was inflamed with a zeal. Now look, let's see what happens. And his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Like he couldn't even hold it back. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. Mattathias had to kill that brother on the altar. Nothing could stop. He couldn't even pull him away and say, come here, let me kill you over here. Nope, he did it right then and there. Right then and there. Yes, that is black on black crime, but guess what? It was the Lord's will. That man was not following the laws of the Most High. So judgment had to be exacted. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. Verse 25. Also the king's commissioner, who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at the time, and the altar he pulled down. Now listen, the men that the king called to convince these men to sacrifice, he killed. Mattathias did not just kill that man on the altar, he killed all the king's men. My man was gangster. He didn't care. He said, if it's up, then it's up. Like killing that first brother. I mean, not just like saying that you're not going to follow the king's law is one thing, but killing another man that did want to do it, that's darn near spitting in the king's face. So he had to kill the other king's men, because guess what? I'm pretty sure those men came up against him. They didn't walk away like, just black on black crime. Nah, because he made the king look weak. So they took their chance to make the king look strong. So Mattathias had to lay them all down. But let's continue. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of God, like as Phineas did unto Zambri, the son of Salom. And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. Like he didn't even kill everybody that was against him. He said, yo, if you down for the Most High, come follow me. Come follow me. That was a beautiful thing. That was a beautiful thing. And they did that. They did that. You know what I'm saying? So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that they had in the city. So they left everything behind. They just went to the mountains with their father, trained, because they knew smoke was coming. They knew smoke was coming. So all these wars broke out. You know what I'm saying? All these wars are breaking out. But let me get to something real quick. Trying to figure out where I'm going to next. Hmm. Where should I start? Where should I start? All right. So all these wars are breaking out. I'm going to jump ahead. We're going to start with Second Maccabees chapter 4. All these wars are breaking out. Brothers dying. You know what I'm saying? A lot of Grecians dying. Even more Grecians are dying. And things are getting passed down. It went from Mattathias to Judas and so forth and so on. So let's continue to Second Maccabees 4, which is the premise. I'm going to try to read this whole joint. I'm going to try to read this whole chapter. But let's get with it. This Simon now it's down to Simon Maccabeus, of whom of whom, hold on. This Simon now of whom we spake afore, having been a betrayer of the money and of his country, slandered Onias. And if he had terrified Helidorus and been the worker of these evils, thus thus was he bold to call him a traitor, that had deserved well of the city and tendered his own nation, and was so zealous of the laws. But when their hatred went so far that by one of Simon's factions murders were committed, Onias, seeing the danger of this contention, and that Apollonius, as being the governor of Celesyria and Phoenice, did rage and increase Simon's malice. He went to the king, not to be an accuser of his countrymen, but seeking the good of all, both public and private. For he saw that it was impossible that the state should continue quiet, and Simon leave his folly, unless the king there did look thereunto. But after the death of Seleucus, who we read up in the history book, the history website, death of Seleucus, when Antiochus, called Epiphanes, took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to be high priest, promising unto the king by intercession 303 score talents of silver, and of another revenue 80 talents. Besides this, he promised to assign 150 more, if he might have license to set him up a place of exercise, and for the training up of youth in the fashions of the heathen, and to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochians. Like, this is the process starting all over again. You have one wicked brother that's trying to make a deal with the whole heathen nation in on our behalf, right? But let's continue. Verse 10, which when the king had granted, and he had gotten into his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to Greekish fashion. Like, he brought us all down to Greekish fashion. The Maccabees did all that just to get back to this point. And the royal privileges granted of special favor to the Jews by the means of John, the father of Eupolemus, who went ambassador to Rome for amity and aid. He took away and putting down the governments which were according to the law. He brought up new customs against the law. So now, instead of the Greeks, he's doing it to the Romans. For he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself, and brought the chief young men under his subjection, and made them wear a hat. Mm. Now such was the height of Greek fashions, and increased the heathenish manners, through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch, and no high priest. So this Jason ain't no high priest. He definitely trying to get us to blend in with the heathens. Now let's continue. Now such was the height of Greek fashions, and increased the heat. Oh, I already read that part. Verse 14. That the priest had no courage to serve any more at the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance in the place of exercise, after the game of discus called them forth. So even our priests, they're not even following the sacrifices in the law anymore, but they rather govern the Olympics. That's what that was. They rather govern the Olympics. Let's continue. Not sent by the honor of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all, by reason whereof sore calamity came upon them, for they had them to be their enemies and avengers, whose customs they followed so earnestly, and unto whom they desired to be like in all things. For it is not a light thing to do wickedly against the laws of God. That's heavy. For it's not a light thing to do wickedly against the laws of God. That's the problem. We think it's a light thing to eat pork. We think it's a light thing to smoke cigarettes, smoke weed, you know what I'm saying, to have sex with whoever we want to. You know what I'm saying? We think it's a light thing to do all these laws that we are breaking. But it's not a light thing at all. But let's continue. but the time following shall declare these things. Now, when the game that was used every faith year was kept at Tyrus, the king being present, this ungracious Jason sent special messengers from Jerusalem who were Antiochians. So he didn't even send other Israelites. He sent heathens to carry 300 drachms of silver to the sacrifice of Hercules, which is a Grecian god, which even the bearers thereof thought fit not to bestow upon the sacrifice. Like, they're Greeks. So them thinking that it's not right to do this was for a different reason. They thinking that it's not right to do it because they're Grecian. They believe in Hercules. They don't even think this sacrifice should be done on an Israelite temple. You know what I'm saying? Because they're not part of it. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. Which even the bearers thereof thought fit not to bestow upon the sacrifice, because it was not convenient, but to be reserved for other charges. They thought the money could be used for other things too. Like, it's not good, you know. This money then, in regard of the sender, was appointed to Hercules, sacrificed, but because of the bearers thereof, it was employed to the making of galleys. Let's look up galley. Let's see what it is. Let's see what a galleys is. Okay, let me get this on the screen. Galleys. It's a verb, chiefly dialect, to frighten or scare. That's what galley means, to frighten or scare. So they thought it'd be better to use that money to frighten and scare. Use all that silver to frighten and scare. That makes no sense, absolutely not. But these are heathens. I don't expect them to make sense at all. Now, when Apollonius, the son of Menethius, was sent into Egypt for the coronation of the king Ptolemy Philometor Antiochus, understanding him not to be well affected to his affairs, provided for his own safety, whereupon he came to Joppa, and from thence to Jerusalem, where he was honorably received of Jason and of the city, and was brought in with torch alight and with great shoutings. And so afterwards went with his host to Phoenice. 3 years afterward, Jason sent Menelaus and aforesaid Simon's brother to bear the money unto the king, and to put him in the mind of certain unnecessary matters. So he's trying to bring Simon's brother into the fold. But he being brought to the presence of the king, when he had magnified him for the glorious appearance of his power, got the priesthood to himself, offering more than Jason by 300 talents of silver. So he came to the king's mandate, bringing nothing worthy the high Slakia. So he came to the king's mandate, bringing nothing worthy the high priesthood, but having the fury of a cruel tyrant and the rage of a savage beast. Then Jason, who had undermined his own brother, being undermined by another, was compelled to flee into the country of the Ammonites. So he tried to, snakes get snaked, basically. He tried to outshine one brother, try to bring him into the fold and try to outshine him, but then he got outshined himself. Now he's on the run from the king. You know what I'm saying? Now he's on the run. But let's drop down a bit. Let's drop down a bit. This is taking a little while. I only got a little bit of time left. Let's start with 35. Let's drop down to verse 35. For the which for the which cause not only the Jews, but many also of other nations took great indignation and were much grieved for the unjust murder of the man. And when the king was come again from the places of Cilicia, the Jews that were in the city, and certain of the Greeks that abhorred the fact also, complained because Onias was slain without cause. Therefore Antiochus was heartily sorry and moved to pity and wept because of the because of the sober and modest behavior of him that was dead. And being kindled with anger forthwith, he took away a, a Drogen, sorry, some of these Greek names are hard to pronounce, Andronicus, his purple, and rent off his clothes, and leading him through this whole city unto that very place where he had committed impiety against Onias, there slew he the cursed murderer. So that's when he was killed for killing Ananias. All right. Thus the Lord rewarded him his punishment as he had deserved. Now, when many sacrilege had been committed in the city by Lysimachus, which had consent of Menelaus, and the fruit thereof was spread abroad. The multitude gathered themselves together against Lysimachus, many vessels of gold being already carried away. Whereupon the common people rising and being filled with rage, Lysimachus armed about 3,000 men and began first to offer violence, one Arrhenius being the leader, a man far gone in years and no less in folly. So Arrhenius is not even a good leader. He is old and he's not even that wise, right? Then then seeing the attempt of Lysimachus, some of them caught stones, some clubs, others taking handfuls of dust that was next, I mean, handful of dust that was next at hand, cast them all together at, wow, they hated this man so bad, the ones that couldn't even get a weapon, they just threw dirt at him. Just threw dirt at him. Thus many of them they wounded, and some they struck to the ground, and all of them they forced to flee. But as for the church robber himself, him they killed beside the treasurer. Of these matters, therefore, there was an accusation laid against Menelaus. Now, when the king came to Tyrus, three men that were sent from the Senate pleaded the cause before him. But Menelaus, being now convicted, promised Ptolemy, the son of Durminus, to give him much money if he would pacify the king toward him. Whereupon Ptolemy, taking the king aside into a certain gallery, as it were to take the air, brought him to be another mind, insomuch that he discharged Menelaus from the accusation, who notwithstanding was cause of all the mischief and those poor men who, if they had told their cause, yeah, before the Scythians, should have been judged innocent, them he condemned to death. Thus, thus they that followed the matter of the city, hold on, oh man, let's go to First Maccabees 4:51. First Maccabees chapter 4 verse 51. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table and spread the veils and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals. So they having a good old time. This is because they are rededicating the temple unto the Most High. So it turned into a party, right? And it's a party for 7 days. You know, all between the morning and the evening, they getting it in. And offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings, which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and citherns, harps, and cymbals. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the God of heaven, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days and offered burnt offerings with gladness and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed and hanged doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month Caslu, with mirth and gladness. So it's a 7 day, it's an 8 day party, 8 day party. At the time also they builded up the Mount Sion with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down, as they had done before. And they sat there a garrison to keep it, and fortified Bethsura, and preserved it, that the people might have a defense against Idumea. Against who? Idumea. Who is Idumea? The Grecians. Who is Idumea? The Romans. Who is Idumea? America. So this is our culture. This is our history. For those who like to say history is not in the Bible, I just proved you wrong. History is fully in the Bible. In the Maccabean Dynasty, they fought, they went to war, they went to hell just to save our people. Many of them died just to save our people. They gave their life for their brothers. That's brotherhood. And with that, I want to end the class. Shalom.